Hello, welcome back to Contested Foul, episode 7. Today our guest is Scott Anding. Scott is my club team coach. That is how I met him, and we're going to hear a lot about his frisbee journey. But first, I was given some feedback that I should let the other person tell their frisbee journey intro. So the floor is yours if you as long or as short as you'd like.
Great. I'll keep it brief. I like to keep talking to myself to a minimum if I can. Geez, I guess this is year 21, 20 of Ultimate Frisbee. I started playing intramurals in high school. That
Oh,
my friend was like, "Hey, come join this team," and then I kept playing in undergrad at Minnesota Duluth. Played 4 years there, captain my senior year, and then played a few years of club in Minneapolis before moving to Chicago in 2013. Played about 10 years of Elevate, and then retired. And now I'm coaching both at
awesome.
Dish and then at the University of Chicago Supernova. So
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about coaching club and coaching college because you're new to coaching college too. Me as well. A lot of the person I was supposed to interview before this was Joel, who's also new to coaching college. We're going to do it next weekend, so I'll have to ask him about that as well. But okay, so you started. I always like to really get the details on how people got started with Ultimate. You had intramural frisbee at your high school. You had intramural sports at your high school.
yeah, so we were. I went to high school called Eden Prairie. Eden Prairie High School is one of the, at the time, was one of the largest high schools in the state. And the youth scene in Minnesota is pretty solid.
Yeah.
So um, they had a varsity team. I was not serious enough to do the varsity team. This was my junior year of high school. Yeah, I'm old. But yeah, it was just junior year. I had a friend who signed up with intramurals. It had a couple of varsity folks on it. Um, but yeah, like I said, I think I did a couple practices with JV varsity type deal, but I didn't really get it until I went to college. I originally wanted to be a music major.
Oh, for what?
Um,
Just in general, or was there an instrument? Or
I wanted to like be a band director at some point. Oh,
that's
and
cool.
I kind of bailed on that immediately. Separate from frisbee, I was like I I did drumline in Minnesota, so I
Oh,
was like had marched with a guy who then was kind of leading Minnesota Duluth's part of their like pep band program, marching program, something like that. And I was like, well, I've marched with that guy. I don't want to. Anyway, so my whole plan was I was going to transfer to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. I didn't end up doing that because I started playing frisbee with some people that I happened to go to high school with, but didn't really know. But it
yeah.
was like, oh, hey, here's we have something in common. Let's hang out. Let's do this. And then I just met a bunch of frisbee people, and then I never transferred. I never moved. I never changed. I was just like, I think this is what I'm going to do forever now. So, and I was right for the record.
That's cool. Yeah, so that's kind of Ben too, my boyfriend. He all of his friends now he went to high school with them, but they weren't friends in high school. Like they knew each other, but they weren't really friends. So that is a couple people have told me that has happened to them, and I'm waiting. No, just kidding. Uh, okay, so you went to Minnesota Duluth. Do they have a pretty big frisbee program there? I know it's Minnesota, so they got to have something.
So at the time, this was this was before all the new eligibility criteria, bid allocation. So it was a little bit of the Wild West, but essentially,
Okay.
Duluth had we were D2 in just about every like air quotes normal sport. But we were before the D1 D3 split. ever happened for college frisbee. So everyone was just in D1. So we would
Okay.
go to D1 sections with which for us was Northwoods. So we'd see Carleton College, University of Minnesota, or Twin Cities. We had all the Iowa teams, so Iowa State, University of Iowa, um, Luther College. All these like small schools from like Carleton is teeny tiny. It's like a 4,000 person. Like my high
Yeah,
school
yeah,
was
yeah.
as big as Carleton. But it was really like I think if we had maybe had the choice, we maybe would have been more towards D3. But
Yeah.
because we had Duluth's not the hardest school to get into academically, and that's okay. I had a
That's
great time, but because
you
of
got
that,
your degree.
and we ended up with a lot of like athletic athletic people who didn't care about the sports, but wanted to like do something. So like they didn't want to go play for the basketball team. They didn't want to go play for the baseball, whatever. They're like, oh, well, frisbee. That sounds nice. So I think we ended up having like pretty big practices. We had consistent like indoor time even through the winter. So even with the weather, like we still had a fairly big program. But I mean, we were you know, bigger than some of the other schools we were competing against, but still smaller than some of the other schools. So really just right in the middle. But because of our proximity to the Twin Cities, we did get a lot of like talent. So
Yeah.
we had maybe one or two YCC people come in after me. So we were able to get um, a bunch of talent, just freshmen who would walk on and be like, "Yeah, I played all 4 years in high school," and that's like such a huge advantage to
Yes. Oh my
start
gosh.
off with.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we had. I think honestly, this has nothing to do with me. I happened to be there, but this was
Okay.
like the 4 years that I was there was probably four of the best years. Like I think likely the high water mark for Duluth frisbee was during our time there. So we had a bunch of folks who had either just recently graduated and were still around that then ended up being part of early Dragon Thrust days,
Oh wow.
and then that kind of carries through. So for like from the very beginning of Dragon Thrust, there was a big Duluth contingent within that.
Okay.
So because we had such talent, we were able to pass on more things that ended up in us qualifying for college nationals in my senior year,
Oh
which was I mentioned the bid allocation stuff was brand new
yeah.
earlier, but uh, we our section in that or section, not a region, or section
Did you go from
earned.
section to nationals?
So there are sections and
Okay.
regions and nationals, but our section itself was so good because again, it was basically all of the Minnesota teams, and then Wisconsin was in our section,
Okay.
and then on
With
the other side
another
of the
good
region
school.
was
Yeah.
Iowa. So we from the old allocation one, we had Twin Cities earned a bid, so U of M proper, Carleton earned a bid, Wisconsin earned a bid, Iowa earned a bid, and then Luther earned a bid as well. So between those, we earned five bids for our whole region, and we were able to
Steal one.
uh, get the last one in a game to go against Wisconsin Milwaukee, which
Oh.
was a to say that our schools were rivals during that time would understate it. It was usually very like intense.
Oh.
And as open tends to be, especially in the Northwood section, it's very like, what if we made every call? What if we fouled harder? Like it was really just like like just
Yeah.
that whole
Did
thing.
you what was the score of that game? Was it close?
I think it was 9-7, but it
Okay.
was like it came down to cap. It was an observed game, which was a huge advantage
Yeah.
for us because we were just like I don't know. And this is not to like get too into the meta game there, but we were like, an observed game actually helped us in that sense because we it was not part of our strategy to like get under the other team's skin and kind of force some of those calls. But that was one of the things that Milwaukee had as an advantage over us during that
Okay.
season, is that we we just get really pissed off and then we
Yeah.
play like crap, and then we end up losing. But
Yeah.
it was like they beat Iowa in the prior round. We had, I think we went through Northern Iowa, which was another program that was really similar to ours. Um, so it really was like we got lucky, and we also like just had the talent to do it. So um, really, that was kind of like a magical season for us in
That's nice.
college.
Senior season too. Did you guys do well at nationals?
We won one game. We won our
Okay.
last game, but we came in as the 20th seed. Um, Honestly, it was the very early days of like, I don't know if Ulti-World fully was up. It was like there were Google groups, there was a couple of Reddit groups, and then
Oh.
one of the early sites was called Skyd Magazine, and they published like a sectional review type thing. Like this,
Okay.
here's all these top teams from across the nation, like, or from the Midwest,
Yeah.
and in that section they like called Duluth out as a team that was like one to watch. We I think we had like a really close game against the Twin Cities that was like, I don't know, notable for us.
Yeah.
And I recall there's someone in the comment section who said that no one on Duluth's team would even make the roster cut for at Luther College, which was
At
like
Luther College.
at Luther College, which at the time, what's his name?
That was a big deal at the time, but
There
maybe not
was
now.
they had a Callahan nominee. I want to say it was Eric Johnson, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyways, like I said, our section was, or our region was just so talented that
Yeah.
it was, these people looked at these other teams that were going to like Stanford Invite, they're going to Centex, they're performing well at like Trouble in Vegas, and all these like national tournaments that we would fly to were the only way you could compare any of these teams,
Yeah.
and because we did not do any of that, like we were playing at High Tide, we went to Chicago Invite, like we did Midwest stuff. I think we did Missouri Loves Company, and that was like the farthest we traveled. But um, anyway, it was just the fact that like early frisbee journalism kind of was like very central to that moment, because it was like, oh well, there's this fifth bid, and there's this team that edged out these other teams that you know are way better,
That's
allegedly.
yeah.
But I don't know. We got it. So I think at the moment, a lot of these things were happening. Sorry, this is now like a
No,
Midwest
please. This is what it's
frisbee
for.
history lesson.
It's
But
actually quite fascinating. Like I only really got into like super like into frisbee and following it in rankings like only like 5 years. So anything before that is very
yeah,
so interesting how it's transformed in like 30 years.
absolutely. So something that was happening at the time. This was like 2010, 2009.
Okay.
Um, Before USAU had this new structure that had D1, D3. There was like this kind of figuring out what is this the future of the sport going to be. One of the things that came out was like they call it C1, or like Cultimate I don't know, but it was
Okay.
essentially like creating a what if it was not unsimilar to like the Super League that was trying to be formed in like European soccer. Essentially, what if we just took the top teams, had them all play against each other all year, and then that was essentially who went to go to these top tournaments. So
Okay.
there was this movement at the time of like, we need to make it more exclusive to these like big programs that like those who are going to those big national tournaments, to kind of give them more resources, more screen chat, things like that. USAU came out with their own proposal that was much much better fit for what the reality was.
Yeah.
Um, but since that was happening, that was right in the middle of my college career. It was like this moment then of we had heard that USAU is going to change all the bid allocations. So when we found out that our region got 5 bids, it was like this is never going to happen again. There's no
Yeah.
way that this is could be allowed to continue. So I don't know. We had this kind of like feeling on the team of it felt like a special thing that we just
Yeah.
had to pursue. Um, and uh, I think it's probably rules impossible to have 5 bids from one single part of
They
the country.
Well, I was
I
gonna
just think it's
say,
possible.
West Coast gets about 5 bids every year because it's like UBC down to Southern California.
Yeah, but
I
it's
think.
it's like the earning bids is maybe I I couldn't articulate what exactly was changed.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just know
yeah.
that it has, and it was like this you know absolute anomaly that we were able to kind of take advantage of. So.
That's cool. Sorry, my cat's here. Okay. Um, that's so interesting. So when you graduated, did have you always played um mixed in club?
I played 2 seasons of Open, like back in Minnesota.
Okay.
It was less interesting to me, um, mainly because I got sick of the personalities.
Yeah.
It was the same people that I played with in college that I got really tired. I used to be a really emotional player. Like I
Okay.
would
That's
get
so interesting.
super mad. I was like I was the kind of guy who would like throw a turnover and then come off the field and like throw his hat, kick it,
Oh
and
my
like
gosh,
I don't,
that's
so like
crazy to hear now.
that is right, and it's you know me in this totally different version of me, and I think I had to work for a long time to kind of figure that out because when I moved over to mixed, well, I started in mixed, and
Yeah.
then I went back for once. My wife Alyssa moved to Chicago ahead of me, so I played that season of Open,
Okay.
and it just I liked mixed way more. It felt like a different game. It
Yeah.
felt like it was more about how your skills are implemented in a varying different ways. There are so many different ways for people to show up and play in that division. Whereas I think at the time it was Open was just you huck it, and
Yeah.
then your guy's bigger than the other guy, and that's
That's why I don't like watching Open. Uh
and it's changed a little bit, but it's still like the core elements are still there. But for me, yeah, once I kind of moved to Chicago, I never did a open season with in any team in Chicago. It wasn't interesting to me. I got in early at Elevate and just kind of really liked the vibe of everybody. So it was something that I had a chance to kind of build a program at
yeah.
at Elevate, and that was really fun for me as a person, also as like someone who wanted to be a leader in the space. I mean, being a captain in college is not easy,
Yeah.
but captaining club is a totally different thing. I never did captain, but I was always a part of
I
the
was about to
core
ask.
or the
Okay.
leadership. I think captaining for club would have. I think there were times where I really wanted it, but it was never the timing was never right for me.
Yeah. Well, now you coach, so that's even higher up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, and coaching rules. I should have retired a long time ago.
um Wait, I had a question. Oh, well, I was gonna say, yeah, Chicago's just got, I mean, we got good mixed teams, so like, I mean, I don't know what it was like when you first got to Chicago, because I know there's been so many different mixed teams
It's
in
all
Chicago. I
yeah, it's
hear about a
all
new one every day.
it's all different teams with or the similar teams but with different names.
Yeah.
Which that also happened in Minneapolis, but
Yeah.
at a much different scale. I think at the time, I never really had the work ethic to be like, I am going to be like, I'm gonna go make machine. I'm gonna, what, like, I never had
Yeah.
that. I kind of always, took it a little less seriously. So I was looking for, I want to compete. I am
Yeah.
competitive, but I don't want to sacrifice my entire personality to like what I felt was to be a different version of me.
Yeah.
I I loved playing just like right in the middle of everybody.
That you find
It's
what
great.
what works for you, and then it's yeah. No, that's great. How many? I mean, so did you help start Elevate, or you were just when was it started?
Elevate was started in 2011.
Okay. I don't know.
It's kind of like it formed out of another team that
Of course.
shifted. But I joined. I think when I joined, I was like year two. I started as a practice player,
Okay.
um, and then I think at a certain point, um, I think the captain that I most responded to, one of my friends in the team, Patrick Mujai, who was a captain for several years in that stretch. Like that was, there are a couple different iterations of him and a few others, but he's someone that I really credit as someone that helped me in a ton of ways. But also that, you know, he was the best man in my wedding. So
Oh, that's nice.
um, these are all like things that as we got it kind of as both Alyssa and I got embedded into the Elevate culture, we really took it seriously
Yeah.
to kind of make it better and try and build something over time and not just try and walk on something and like have the best thing for me and then leave and move on. And I think
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of folks kind of take that path of I want the thing now. I don't want to
Yeah.
necessarily work for it over time. And to me, like culture is the number one thing. And any team across, it's been a through line for my whole career is just um, culture is way more important, and that's one of the things that led to my success in college. Is that I was walking into a culture that was ready to give people opportunities, and I eventually was able to take to take those opportunities. And, at Elevate, really taking seriously what are the values of the team? What are the things we want to do? How are the what are the ways we want to actually do those things? And
Yeah.
it wasn't just well we're going to win and that's it. It's like well you can't control that.
Yeah. Those are important questions to ask for any team. I think we should probably do something like that for the Sirens. We've talked a little bit about it, but well, I'll talk to you about coaching college too, but I heard you say the other day it's a lot different than coaching club. Wait, but I did have one final question about
Yeah.
club, about Elevate. Okay, so you're on Elevate so long. What is like your top moment on Elevate? Just like anything.
Top moment was oh gosh. I think we had a lot of like silly ones of stupid stuff that we did after games.
Yeah.
I think we had a lot of competitive games in there. I think we were always had some great battles with like Liquid Hustle when they were still around as kind of like our equivalent team in Indiana for a little
Oh,
bit.
okay, okay.
Um, we were never really. There were years where we pushed to I think as high as like third in the region,
Oh, wow.
but overall, I mean, we went from not qualifying to regions to coming in seated like fifth and then dropping, or coming in seated 12th and then rising all the way up. Like we've had so many different pathways to go through this, and it was really like for years, were we in Steamboat's pool or not?
Steamboat, yeah.
Was U
We
fifty
played them.
four or UPA or whatever the
Yeah, IPA. I think.
No. I mean, like there was a team of basically masters age folks that would walk on to regions, and
Jeez.
and one year they were called UPA. They were also called
Oh,
U54, which was like
U54.
USAU.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like these you we always had competitive moments, but it wasn't the competition was kind of secondary. It's the friendships, the bonds, and the connections that I was able to make that I think we all have kind of carried through. Um, I there was a moment, if I may,
Yeah.
one play moment. It wasn't even a highlight, but it was a to me an emblematic elevate moment. Is we're in a universe in the game to go to regions,
Ooh.
um, and this was us and they're called Los Heroes or something. They're in an Indian team.
Okay.
Um, and I just remember we had this epic back and forth universe point, and it came down to a one of my teammates was coming in on an under. I threw it to her, and there was like both hands trying to pancake the disc, and then the defender trying to do the exact same thing. And it
Oh.
was this long discussion of I was like 5 feet away from this. Me and my teammate had our own perspectives. Obviously, the defense and everyone else in the field had their own. Because like the stakes were super high,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. Those
what
are
it came
stressful
down
calls.
to is like it was it was a turnover to begin with.
Yeah.
We didn't we talked it all through and every angle. It was like I there's like no justification to say yeah she could have caught it but didn't because it was like a if we're both calling fouls on each other and
Yeah.
so it's like this whole moment of it really was a defining moment in that season and I don't remember what year it was but it was this kind of this moment of applying all of the values that we talked about. It was this clear moment of action where we could live up to those and we ended up losing that game.
Oh
We didn't
no.
score that point. And
What they
part
did?
of it,
I feel like I would have just sent it back. What was the?
I don't even remember. It's been
Okay.
lost to time. But it was, I recall being like, you know what? We made the right choice. We made the right decision to say, hey, this wasn't something that was, oh, we'll get it back on defense.
Yeah.
And I think we did, and it took it wasn't like the defining thing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was something that really stood out to me of like, we had this disappointment. We weren't going to make it to regions. We had all
Yeah.
these hopes, and it kind of came down to the last point, and we did our best.
Yeah.
And I recall those who were like most aligned to the values were like, we'll build from this. We'll come back on this, and others, it was a lot harder, and I think that's true for every team. Is the results can't please everyone, but
Yeah.
if we through the process can learn something, that sometimes that's worth it too.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, that's interesting. Were did you guys have any Chicago specific rivals Elevate? Because I feel like there's always been the like Elevate Statcats Java. I gotta bring in some tea to the podcast to get people to stay around.
Oh
So
man, I think we had some. We're kind of because we're in the middle. We didn't have like a clear. We were often not stratified with some of the teams that were above us. So whether that was Omerta or Shakedown or Tequila Mockingbird or I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting. Uh,
I've heard of some of these.
yeah, and some of
None of
those
them are
are
teams anymore.
the cores of the same people, just with different team names, and it's just you're regarding and playing the same people pretty
Yeah.
frequently. I don't think we were ever really in a position to win a lot of the time against those. But it was like Stat Cats and us were super close when
Okay.
Java started, it was kind of like this third team I had to kind of navigate with. So,
Yeah.
there's one tournament where it was like all three of our teams had lost in pre-quarters, and then it was like the ninth place bracket or something. And it was like, okay, it's going to be Stat Cats, Elevate, and Java round robin for placement. It's like we could have done this in Chicago. We're
Yeah.
doing it in like Indiana, so it's uh, not a lot of bad blood. I would say. I think
That's good.
honestly, I think. I doubt that other teams felt this way, but I felt we were an absolute joy that people liked playing us.
Okay.
So
I'm sure. No, I'm sure. That's
yeah,
good. Well, that's good you guys didn't have. I just like Loyola was such a Stat Cats team for some reason. Like, especially when I was a freshman, a bunch of the seniors played on Stat Cats that like I would always hear this. I don't even know if any of it was real stuff about Elevate and Java, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
it was. I think when three teams are so close
Yeah.
and fighting over the same talent, it's like sometimes it does. It feels more personal than it actually is. And it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people just like going to Schiller Park. Some people don't, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Like,
where do you live?
yeah, right.
Exactly.
And I don't know. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, well, that's great. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to coaching now. Was Dish the first team you coached ever?
It is the second team that I coached
Okay.
formally. I coached a high school team in one of the St. Paul suburbs before
Okay.
leaving, and just a assistant coach for one of my club co-captains that pitched in a little bit. Um, that was really fun, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like,
Yeah,
"Do you want to throw far?
it's me
Cool,
right
let's
now.
throw it." You know? Which I'm sure I learned something. I just don't remember what it is because it was a really long time ago. But yeah, I think there were a couple moments in my college career where, like, I don't know. I remember at high tide, our um, the women's division was happening in the morning, and the men's division was happening later in the afternoon.
Okay.
I went and watched like the Minnesota Duluth women's team just to like go hang out,
Yeah.
just chill. Um, and I remember they're like, I don't know, I was like doing sideline talk,
Yeah.
and I was just talking to one of the captains. Her name is Lisa. I was like, Lisa, hey, look at this. You're wide open. Why don't you just go for it? And it's like she would just like cut strike, and no one could stop her. And like, I guess you just better keep going strike. So it's just
Yeah.
like talking to my friend Lisa as she's cutting all over the field and scoring a bunch of points. And it's like, oh, I'm not really coaching,
Yeah.
but I felt like I was like adding something to the side. Um, and especially as I got later into my club career, I was never a formal coach, but I had been playing on Elevate and knew all the systems to help teach people that I kind of became, someone that people relied on for advice, both for tactics and just for teammate stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It just kind of like happened, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
were you? Oh, sorry. Did you have more to say on that?
no, no,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Were you like nervous then for coaching Dish because it was just you?
A little bit. Also
Yeah. I
because
mean, I would have been.
I felt like I didn't know, I didn't feel that I was qualified at the moment.
Okay.
And part of it was it was recommended to me. So the Dish, excuse me, Dish had kind of announced they're looking for a coach,
Yeah.
and I I didn't really hear about it until my friend Steph, former uh, Ultimate Chicago president Steph Landry,
Oh.
suggested that I should apply. And I was like, hey, what the hell? Let's go for it.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember being really honest with Kels and Christine at the moment. I was like, ah, I've never like coached before, but I like talked to my teammates about about frisbee, and I've been
I'm
doing it for
very
a long
active
time.
on the
And
sideline.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and that was they were looking for someone to kind of help with line calling is an impossible thing to do
Oh
as a
yeah, while you're
cat.
playing. Oh yeah.
it's,
No.
like, it's nuts. So like they're like hey, lines would be super helpful. I'm like
Yeah.
great, I can do that. But I never I know a ton about tactics, but I'm not super invested in
Okay.
like like the what is the most cutting edge something that we can do, or like I don't know. I just it's a game. It's
Yeah.
a sport that we play with our friends, and yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of like techniques and things like that. But I knew that at my core, I could do skills and
Yeah.
just build things together conceptually, um, and get there. And luckily, I think that was kind of what Dish was looking for at that time. I think it's still.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to go into year three with Dish. It's been really like transformative to how I view the sport. Honestly,
Okay, that's
is
good.
um, I feel like I've said this a lot. I'm going to say it again because I just love saying it. It's like I don't I joke that I wish I had retired years ago,
Yeah.
and part of it is because coaching has been able to give me the ability to have my mind engaged in frisbee and all of the interpersonal dynamics and everything that go into it, um, and not have to worry too much about like I threw 15 turnovers this weekend and I feel like crap. Like that was my whole deal. Is like I
Yeah.
would take risks and I could sometimes pull them off, but I get really upset when I couldn't figure stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a nice thing about coaching. Yeah, because it's not your own self on the line. I mean, in a way, obviously, a coach is still very invested and wants to win, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's less about it's less about me and it's more about the like the us of everything.
Yes.
The we of the team is how do we work together? That is always that's been a more interesting question to me than like how can I personally improve.
Yeah.
I would much rather talk about how can we all improve together and maximize our joint slay,
As I say. Yes.
as they say.
Um, well, has coaching women's like what are some differences you've seen women's versus coach like when I coached open this summer, I was like, wow, everybody's throwing their hats and and they're all in high school. Um so like geez, sorry. What are some differences you've seen since you started coaching women's that it's like, wow, this is different than either open or mixed or and they're all very different.
Yeah. Now I'll start this with this is just one man's opinion.
Yes.
Uh, so take that as you will. But I've I think coaching women's has been really interesting especially in Chicago, because it is it's been so there's like two very very consistent programs that Dish and Nemesis have both been around for very,
Yeah, yeah.
and there's been kind of these other teams that have had significant runs like Helix, like Spicy Tuna, like Frenzy, like Lakeshore Drive. Now
Yep.
it's there's a, plenty of very talented women in this city that for a long time chose mixed
Yeah.
over women's, and that was always the case. Like when on Elevate, is we were trying to compete with not only the other mixed teams, but how do we get someone to come over from Helix to come play
Yeah.
for Elevate, because we practice at the same times in the same field and stuff like it's like these are all things that I think we kind of viewing it as, I think the women's division is more community focused. Of let's build stuff.
Yeah.
Let's try and get pickup going. And it's I've never played in women's spring league. U Chicago or the Ultimate Chicago League, but everyone I talk to is like, it's the best league that Ultimate Chicago offers. And
Oh,
part of it
okay.
is just like that, the camaraderie over many years of playing the same people. I think it sounds very special. And kind of being loosely a part of it, near it, next to it,
Yeah.
it is really it's important work because it is. I think oftentimes in Ultimate, the men's division has been the priority for investment. That's what we saw in the 2010s when it was like impossible to see women playing frisbee on ESPN, but we
Yeah.
were getting like these new semi-pro leagues playing, on ESPN. It's like where where is what is lifting all boats in this
Yeah.
tide? Is it just we're going to watch dudes play on TV forever? Like,
Yeah. No,
anyways.
I get what you're saying.
So I think mixed has always had a little bit of an advantage over women's, at least in Chicago, in that there's, for some reason, there are some players that just view mixed as above women's.
Yeah.
A lot of women matching players would prefer to play mixed than women's.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it necessarily, the three divisions are so different. They're not, one is not better than any other. They're just different.
Yeah.
And what I often have found with women matching players in the mixed space is they feel like they just play their role and then that's it. And they can never really grow into something more. But what is really valued about the women's division, and this is true for college and for club, is there are more opportunities and more different ways that a woman can show up in the women's division.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
that you could be a cutter with throws, and there's some spaces in mixed where you can do that, but it's a little harder to execute because there's like a 6'2" dude poaching in the end zone.
That's why I switched. I said I can't keep throwing a hug to a WMP and then an MMP comes out of nowhere and dunks on her, and I love
Yeah,
throwing a hug, so I was like, I'm out of here.
and it's you have to change your tactics for the division to
Yeah.
do it, and that I think is being I've played open, I've played mixed, I've only coached women's, but I've had a blast the last few years just learning more about the division. I think my first year was like, who the hell are any of these people? Because like a lot of these women in the division, they never played mixed.
Yeah.
I never heard of them.
Yeah.
So then like I'd have someone say, oh well, we got to watch out for this person. Like, who? And describe them to me. you know?
That's so true. Yeah, I do feel like I've been trying to recruit a lot for Dish too, and I do feel like some people I've talked to, especially people who play mix, would just these are all WMPs obviously, would just like were like so confused when I was asking them to try out for Dish. I was like, "Come try women's," and they're like, "I play mix." I'm like, "Try it." But somebody at a thing was like, "Oh, because I had switched from mixed to women's," and she was like, "Can you tell me why you did that?" And I like gave her some reasons, and she was like, "Because she was thinking about it."
Yeah.
So that's one thing I told
And
her
I
to
guess
try out.
I mean, and I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. That helps all of us. But really, I think it is appreciating the differences and knowing that they're different. Because
Yeah.
honestly, there's a lot of men that cross over from the open division
Yeah.
into mixed, thinking, "Well, I was so successful in open, I'm just going to be successful in mixed too." It's like you have to adapt,
Yes.
and you are in a space that includes women. You
Yes.
cannot operate in a way that pretends they aren't there.
Yes.
So it's really like, we used to be able to, if we were playing a team we've never played before, we could evaluate pretty quickly based off of how they interacted with their women matching handlers. Like,
Yes.
oh, well, they never look over there. So then we'd have people poach off and
Yeah.
we could play that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're different. And that's
It
okay.
is different.
Different's okay.
Yes. Yeah, and everyone hopefully finds the one that they're most suited to. Okay. Sorry, we don't have a ton of time left. That's okay, but I wanted to hear a little bit about coaching college and the differences for sure and what you've learned from that. And then we'll go on to some fun questions.
Sounds good.
Don't forget about
Uh,
those.
yeah. Oh, I will not forget. College is different in
Yeah.
a lot of ways because I think for when I was joining my frisbee team in college, I played all times. I played every sport. I was just raised in this like sports culture that I don't know. It just I get it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
understood what offense and defense
Me too. That's similar. Yeah.
in a lot of and this is there are a lot of women that also have that experience as they're growing up that they play all sorts of sports. They come into frisbee, yeah, and they come into frisbee. And they're like, I get it. I understand where I want to go. I have like an athletic background. For some others, it's I've never played a sport at all,
That's, yeah.
or I played an individual one, and a lot of that is just like this cultural element of team sports. Sometimes just don't they aren't pushed on women in the same way that they've been pushed on men, and so oftentimes it is kind of this like the skills gap is significant
Yeah.
in, kind of between college and club, and there's a lot of college players that will be good enough to make college roster or club rosters. Dish had a bunch of really successful college players last year, but it is like this. It's much more a space for you need to be there for the people who are able to play club. You need to be there for people who are returners who are still learning. You have to have a space for people who are brand new who are
Yeah.
like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to do this or rugby.
Oh my
it's
gosh. This is the exact same thing at Loyola.
it's always women's ultimate and rugby. They're two peas in the pod. It's
I
like
don't, yeah.
we got to
And
get band
rugby's,
kids to play sports, and they're gonna do one of the two.
yeah, they want to play sport in college and it's one or the other. Yeah, we're always trying to get more people from rugby because they have like 80 people that sign up. And I'm like, come play frisbee. You'll get to play more.
Right. And it's just numbers, and it's
Yeah, numbers are
having
hard.
to re-recruit every year. I think it's
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely, I'm also like, I think about, I almost went to like CU Boulder. Sometimes I think about if I had gone to CU Boulder and I'm like, what a difference in college ultimate that would have been than here at Lloyd. Like, there's just so many different, like Renee was saying she went to go visit Caleb at Brown and they all have like notebooks they have to write their like frisbee homework in every week. And we were like, what? Like, what's going on? So
wow.
it's just like, there's college, I feel like it's just huge differences in so many different ways and in so many
Yeah,
different things. And that's hard,
and it's I think as a
but
someone
fun.
who's focused on skills, yeah, it is fun because I think you can see someone. I've never thrown a backhand before. I never threw a flick. Oh, I did it. That was
Yeah.
that was kind of
No, that is
cool. It's
nice to
like
see.
you can see the improvement so quickly, and for me like that development of skills is far more important at that stage than
Yeah.
like club. We could do a little bit more strategically just because we're operating on the same baseline.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Those are all great points. I agreed with them all. Um, Let me see if I have any more U Chicago questions. Yeah, because this is a kind of a building year for you guys.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's my first year, but I know there's kind of been some changes in the program since I understand that the team went to nationals a few years ago. Um,
Yeah, they went 2023 recently, but it's like yeah,
and
that's hope.
I think it just things change every year,
Yeah.
and I think at the moment we still have a ton of talent on the team, um, but it's we have just a change in the team that we're navigating through. So
Yeah.
I think it's natural to have that kind of ebb and flow of things, and it's all just based on who graduates, who's
That's
coming
exactly what I was
in,
gonna say.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all part of it.
Yeah, unless you're one of those schools that people are like, "Oh, I want to play frisbee in college. I'm going to go there." like those really
Yeah.
good schools. It really just depends on who's there. Who
Right.
graduated this year?
And
What
I
freshmen
think
are we getting?
right, and I think for a school like U Chicago, like I can't relate. I just went to state school. I barely wanted to do school at all. But these are young people that really want to invest in the future, and
Yes.
that's huge because you have to be really smart to be
Yep.
able to get into a school like that.
Yes.
And I respect the hell out of that. It's like I get it. If you know things things come up and you have goals that are much larger than frisbee, so I want to help you hit those goals. And that's
Yeah.
that's been my whole vibe is like, can we what do we want to do together?
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Okay, well, I've got to ask my final two questions, my fun questions. Okay. What is your frisbee hot take?
My frisbee hot take doesn't feel very hot because I live in it. Is
Okay.
I think the push pass is the most important throw that any handler can
Of any throw?
have in any throw.
Do you have any
Because
more?
it requires finesse. It
Okay.
requires a creativity of the game that I wouldn't have become so comfortable with my push pass if I hadn't just played a bunch of goal team. And sometimes you cannot get the disc out of your hand fast enough
Yeah.
because I just went. Bloop.
Yep. That's a good point.
It's like I can throw it from either side. If I'm on the backhand side, I'll throw a lefty. If I'm on the flick side, I'll throw a I'll just I won't even hold it in my hand. I'll be in a flick grip and then I'll just push it. And
That is, yeah, you don't have to change your grip. That is
yeah,
that is
so
important.
I use it for dumps. I use it for strike passes on specifically like inside because I can like sneak it over someone's shoulder. So anyways,
Yeah.
that's part of just who I am. And I
Okay.
love throwing that throw. I got really good at it because I love doing it. But yeah, it just I think that was always my favorite part of being a handler is just I have all these tools. Let's just make new ones. Let's
Yeah.
just come up with dumb stuff that I could do and see if it works. And um, I don't know. That's really fun to me. So I think some people will like look down on the push pass. Who's got a real throw? I'm like, it's as real as any other throw in this sport. Scoobers are also good too.
I do like a scuba. A scuba's good also because like that is something I've definitely used when it's like stall 10. And one time I remember in college I was needed to throw a dump and it was like stall 9, but I had it in my flip grip, so I just turned it upside down and threw a scuba like a chest high scuba right
Yeah,
at my teammate. I mean, she caught it. It was great.
yeah, that's
Um
completion, and that's all that counts.
yeah, I actually I have like my push pass trauma is that my very first club tournament ever. So I was playing for agency in DC and it was summer before my sophomore year, and I had it right on the ends and the goal line, and I threw a push pass into the end zone, and it got D'd. And then somebody afterwards was like, "You can't throw a push pass on the end zone."
I
She
think
was
you
like,
can. I think
well,
you
"Yes,
absolutely can.
but I think I'm just mine's not. I just love a lefty backhand so much, but in my push pass just travels so slowly. That's like I think the problem with me is some push passes are just too easy to
Hmm.
intercept. But if you got a good push pass, use it.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. Okay, last fun question. What is your dream frisbee line? So 7 people, gender ratio, whatever. Honestly, people have really taken this in whatever direction they've wanted to. Like I've gotten 3 different NBA players. I know you're a WNBA fan. If we had more time, I was going to ask you a little bit about it, but yeah. So hit me with them.
Well, I gotta start with my number one draft pick, and that is my wife. We're
Yes, of
playing mixed
course.
for sure. Yeah, she loved playing mixed, but I think she'd play with this line. Then we're gonna
Okay.
get Asia Wilson
Okay.
from the Las
She'd be
Vegas
good.
Aces. She
I
would be
mean, they'd
so
all
good
be
at
good.
frisbee. I
Yeah.
mean, I think about the wingspan. I think about the footwork in the post, how that can apply to, um, you know, just throwing form. I think she has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm gonna go with Aloy from the video game series Horizon Zero Dawn, because I think if she can take down a robot with a bow and arrow, probably be pretty good at frisbee.
Yeah,
Um,
we're getting
I'm
into
gonna
new
take
territory here. Video game characters, I like it. Not even real people. Like,
no, definitely not. I'm gonna take the Pokemon Alakazam, who's gonna play as an MMP.
also some
I
crazy wingspan
Yeah,
may
crazy
be
wingspan.
tall.
Also, psychic powers,
Yep.
so could like manipulate things. I think I'm gonna take. Let's see. I have two WMPs. This is a 4-3 line. Oh, sorry, I have three WMPs.
Okay.
This is a 4-3 women memory
Okay.
play. I have me and Alakazam on the MMPs. So I'm
Okay.
gonna
I'm like writing this.
add. I'm going to add a Victor Wembanyama from the San Antonio Spurs
Okay.
because, again, wingspan, deep cutter, very athletic, but also I feel like I trust him with the disc downfield. That
Okay.
if he catches it right outside the end zone, we're good. I don't have to charge up and get a dump. We're easy.
Yep.
And then for my last role, I feel like I have a lot of raw athletic talent. I need like a glue person to really come in and tie it all together. Um, I'm gonna take Daisy Kelleher from Below Deck, the reality
I
show.
thought
I
this was
think
gonna be a frisbee person.
no, I don't think she could really add anything on the frisbee field, but I really think she's a great leader. She's got
Okay.
a good head on her shoulders, that cool under pressure, and more than anything is if something is needs to happen, she's going to make it happen. She's going
Okay.
to communicate directly and say, honestly, we're kind of messing up right now. We
Okay.
gotta we gotta get it together. So
Okay.
that is my insane line of frisbee people. None of them are frisbee people.
Did you get your
Uh,
final MMP? We got Scott Wembanyama, if I said that right.
and Alakazam is my MMP.
Oh, and we had Asia Wills. Okay, it was a 3.
Yeah.
I see now. Okay, perfect. I'm definitely gonna edit that all together into a clip with some photos and put it out there because I think
That's
people like
that sounds great. I think we could win every game at college nationals for
college
sure.
nationals
Easily, yeah,
specifically.
yeah. Specifically college nationals. I think Asia Wilson would be dominant
I mean,
in frisbee.
literally, I remember when like I was winning and Caitlin Clark was. I mean, she's still so big, but like big, and everyone was like, You give Caitlin Clark a disc and she'll be on the Team USA in 2 years, not even 6 months. So I think is
Here's
if you can get an athletic person to come play frisbee, man, there's nothing stopping
It
them. I
makes
was
a
like
big
Renee,
difference.
yeah,
I think Caitlin Clark would be a rough person to play with frisbee with
okay,
because the way she plays basketball is she creates for herself first and foremost. But if
mm,
she has to do any work to try and get open, she's just gonna pout in the corner and be like, "I'm open, give it to me. I'll shoot it." Like, no, sorry, you gotta be with it. Paige Beckers, on the other hand, was like I would actually remove Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn and put
okay,
Paige Beckers in that because she has the size. She's 6'2". She has all the ball
six
skills.
two.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought she was
she's
6 foot.
she's
I
the
don't
real
know.
deal.
Ah,
Everything that people put on Caitlin Clark, she's going to be the future of basketball, applies double for Paige Beckers.
yep,
She's the best.
she's the best. She's great. Well, thank you so much. That was a great line and a great episode, and I enjoyed hearing about all of that. Um, Anything final you want to say?
I just think it's so cool that frisbee is like this silly little made up sport that we all play with our friends, and I just think that's really fucking cool to have a kind of a niche thing that you talk to your coworkers and like, oh, I played that in college once, or I've never heard of that. Is that the one with the dog? Like, I think this is the funniest hobby to have, and I'm just so thrilled to share it with everyone.
Yes.
So,
It is very, very fun hobby. Okay, well, see you all, the audience, next next time. Thank you.